Now, back in 2014, to mark his 50th birthday, my guest today set himself the task of completing 40 challenges to help raise the profile of men's mental health. Those challenges included the likes of playing darts against an international player, so he had a game against Glenn Duzzer Durrant. We love Duzzer on this programme. Then he bumped his target up to 100 by 2020. And guess what? He's at it again. Only this time, he's set himself 30 challenges in 2025 alone. And by appearing on the morning mix, hopefully, he's going to tick off numbers 10 and 17 on his list. To explain more, it's a very good morning to Richard Kirby. Richard, good morning.
Morning, Dave.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
We got you in the building, actually, because it was locked when it was free. Are you all right? Have you warmed up?
That should have been one of the challenges, actually.
Scale up the outside to floor 5. Anyway, you're warmed up and you've had a cup of tea, even if it's got dodgy milk in it. Right, we'll come on to the current 30 soon then. But let's... Well, I was going to say let's go back to 2014, but just having a quick chat off air there, we might be going back a bit further than that. So tell us the background then. Tell us a bit about yourself and what gave you the idea to do the 40 challenges, which snowballed.
I was diagnosed with depression in 2004, and obviously, you want to know a little bit about the background to how you're feeling, the symptoms, and try and understand what triggers you have. But I never really spoke about how I felt until 2011, when I'd had a bit of a rough time. But a couple of days afterwards, the death of Gary Speed was announced, which obviously I didn't know Gary, but his situation really moved me and affected me.
And resonated with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I actually, at the time, I had a website where I wrote the occasional blog, and I actually just wrote about how I felt. And the response was amazing. Even members of my own family had no idea that I'd had a mental health condition probably since my teens. But the response was really positive and encouraging. And 3 years later, as you say, when I turned 50, I decided that I wanted to do something to kind of just raise the profile and just show people that actually talking about difficult subjects was a positive thing, as was asking for help if you were struggling.
Yeah.
So, as you say, I set myself 40 challenges, in inverted commas, for that particular year. But it's quite addictive, Dave, I have to say. And 40 turned into 100, and I carried on through to lockdown. But really, just asking people for to help make an idea become a reality.
Yeah.
And there's any number of examples, but most of the people that got involved were people I'd never met before. So reaching out to a stranger I always likened that to approaching my doctor the first time, who effectively was a stranger. And telling him how I felt.
Can we go back to that then?
Yeah, of course.
Let's go back to the I mean, be as open as frank as you want. And I know you want to talk about, and it is something we do on this programme fairly regularly, talk about mental health issues, particularly men's mental health, because it doesn't get talked about enough. So it was well before 2014. Was it 2004 you said that you were initially diagnosed? So what was the lead up to that then, and what was the diagnosis? The
lead up was, the condition I have is called persistent depressive disorder. So it's a fairly mild condition, but it's a chronic condition, and it's basically a consistent low mood, which is something that doesn't necessarily present itself. But on this particular occasion, something else had happened in my life that kind of made me feel considerably worse than I normally would do, and made people around me recognise that something was wrong, and that really I should, although it took me a while, that I really should see a doctor.
So you were functioning okay then? I mean, you were working. You were.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I'd worked all my life, and it was it's something that you're aware maybe that you're not quite 100%, but you just tick along. And
I'm intrigued to know what prompted you then to think, hang on, there's something more to this possibly, because we all can wake up and think, oh, here we go again sort of thing. We can all have a low mood.
Yeah.
But obviously you felt there was something else.
It was the sort of issues that I was having in my personal life at the time, and the second, if trauma is the right word, creates what is called double depression. Okay. And it's so basically you go to the doctors because of the secondary incident that has really kind of triggered the more serious reaction.
Yeah.
And the underlying condition isn't necessarily picked up, but I became really acutely aware that there was something that still wasn't 100% right. And I spent quite a lot of time trying to understand it, reading about the potential conditions that I could have, because the word depression is a bit of a coverall, and everybody is different. People can be given the same diagnosis, have completely different symptoms, and respond completely differently to triggers and to medication. So it wasn't till around 2014 when I started doing those challenges that I recognised exactly what I did have, and was more comfortable talking about how it made me feel, and the reactions that I had, and trying to understand the triggers and manage those symptoms as well as I possibly could.
I mean, people who are listening to this might be thinking, "Oh, I'm a bit down." Talking about it, is that one of the keys?
Yes, but it took me an awful long time to realise it. I think, looking back, this probably started when I was in my teens, and at the time, that would have just been put under the banner of, it's just a teenager. This is just part of growing up. And but actually, when you look back, you're able to recognise that the symptoms that I had. I mean, basically, the condition that I have, when it really presents itself, I get pretty sort of tearful, and that's the sort of that. Those were the moments that I always tried to hide when I started, and I recognised, oh, actually, I'm kind of going to cry here, and it's okay when you're alone and you're at home or whatever, but when you're at work, and it didn't necessarily need something to happen. You could just feel it coming on, and it wasn't for a long, long time that I felt comfortable telling somebody, or I hid it for probably about 40 years before I actually allowed somebody to see me in a state, as it were, and that was probably around about the time which convinced me to say, I can talk about this. There's no shame in how I feel. It's something that maybe other people have and do exactly what I did and hide it for years and years and years. But it was the right thing to do, and it's actually been a really positive experience. Not just doing the challenges, but meeting people, being able to talk to people. Some of whom are in the public eye, some of whom, were work colleagues, or But everybody has a story to tell, and everybody probably knows somebody who has a condition or an issue or needs support in one way, shape, or form. And I thought, if I can possibly make a difference, I'll try. The one thing I knew for certain is if I didn't try and do anything, then there was no way I was ever going to make a difference to anybody. You may not know if you have, but at least I know that I tried.
Well, you certainly did, and certainly are still doing. How are you now?
Yeah, I'm good. I retired in June.
Where did you work?
I worked for the NHS.
Okay.
My wife and I both worked for the NHS. I think we've done about 62 years between us, and yeah, the time was right to kind of call it a day. So we gave ourselves 6 months of basically exercising not at all, but drinking far too much, eating far too much. But when the new year came, I was determined to give myself get that purpose back, which I'd lost. Because of lockdown, it was impossible to go out and meet people and do the things that I wanted to do when when the restrictions were in place. And then 2021 and 2022, my parents passed away, which
that's intense for anybody.
It was really tough, as it would be for and I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who've gone through situations and are grieving for lost ones, and it's a really difficult time. But for me, it was a period of reflection, and kind of now I'm in that frame of mind where I feel strong enough to try a few challenges, make a fool of myself, doing a few things, but hopefully, one or two people might resonate, as the word that you used earlier, with one or two people, and if they want me to talk, or if they want to share with me, or they want me to share with them, that's basically what this is about.
Tell us about the first lot then. So it started off at 40, ended up at 100.
Yeah,
blimey.
It was just addictive, Dave. To be honest, you meet somebody, or you do something that you haven't done for the first time, and you think, that's really enjoyable, or that's different, or something that I wouldn't have even contemplated trying when I was a little bit younger.
So what sort of things are we talking about then? Come on, let's give a few highlights of the ones that you did.
Highlights. The one that actually was the hardest thing to do was stand-up comedy. To go up to the stand in Newcastle and stand up in front of a group of people who'd paid to be entertained, and expected somebody that had never done it before to actually entertain them. I've never been so nervous about anything in my life. It was a fantastic evening. It went better than I could have possibly hoped.
Yeah. How did you think of the ideas then?
Some of them just came to me. Some of them were there was a lot of sporting challenges. I've always loved my sport, without ever sort of excelling in anything. But there was, things like bowling at a Test cricketer.
Who did you bowl at?
Johnny Bairstow.
Wow.
I'm lucky.
Did he hit you for 6?
He was very kind. Johnny and I had known each other for quite a while, because he went to the same school as me a long time later. Okay. But I'd known Johnny since he was probably 13 or 14 years old. So getting in touch with him and arranging that was no problem. But meeting people or doing something with people that you hadn't met before is obviously a lot harder, as we said off air. If you're trying to speak to somebody in the public eye and you've got to go through an agent or a manager, you've got next to no chance, really, because I've got no profile at all, other than the fact that I'm just trying to do something positive. Probably the two of the most memorable people that I was able to meet. One, I had to meet an Olympic gold medalist, and I ended up going to have tea with. Well, she was Anne Packer then, Anne Brightwell now, who won the 800 metres in the Tokyo Olympics in 1964.
Wow.
And we've stayed in touch.
Oh, fantastic.
Which, so little things like that.
How do you even start to get in touch with someone like Anne Packer?
It's the wonder of the internet. There's ways and means.
Okay, yeah. So you got in touch, and she was all for what you were doing.
Yeah, she invited me over. I ended up a few years later writing a book about the challenges and my own mental health story, and wrote the foreword to it. Okay. And then a few years later, I had to meet a Rio Olympic medalist, and actually I was very lucky to meet Bryony Page, who is now not just an Olympic medalist, but a gold medalist, world champion in an MBE. And again, we've stayed in touch every now and again, and those sort of things are fantastic, that you can meet somebody who's achieved, in fairness, more in probably 20 seconds than I have in 50, 60 years. Well, God, it's 60 years now. And to find out that they're just lovely people.
Were there any that escaped you?
There probably will have been. You tend to. There will have been people I've tried to get in touch with.
And not so much the people that you met, but I mean like the challenges in general. With any that you couldn't do, or
no, I did them all, but just with consistent lack of success. I think the one that always it does make me chuckle was I challenged myself to race against an Olympic swimmer. And I'm not exactly lightning, but you don't realise how quick any athletes are when you see them on the telly, because they're all fast. Yeah. And so I met up with Chris Cook, who I think he was in the 100-metre breaststroke final in Beijing. And we basically said, 100 metres, okay. And Chris says, I'll give you 25 metres start. We did a warm-up lap, and I was shattered after the warm-up, the first couple of lengths warm-up. And I said, will you give me a 50 metres start? no problem. And he still beat me by 10 metres. I've never seen anything move so fast in water. It was like, and, you know, you just laugh about it. You know, when I was young, I would have had a real fear of failure or making a fool of myself.
Right.
But doing things like that, or getting in the boxing ring with... I was supposed to do a training session with a lad called Josh Leather, who was from Gisborough, who was, I think he remained an unbeaten fighter. But his coach kindly said, oh no, well, you're actually going to go and spar with him. He said, don't worry, he won't hit you. And it took him about 20, 30 seconds before it cut the inside of my mouth.
Really?
And I kid you not.
Had he not got the memo then?
To be honest, in his world, it was probably nothing more than a tap. In my world, it was frightening because I actually didn't even see it coming.
Wow.
Somebody had taken a video of it, and I had to slow the video down to actually see his arm move. And it's just, from a sporting point of view, it's great to recognise the difference between somebody who just is, you know, enjoys his sport and has played a little bit in his time against somebody who's genuinely good at what they do, and the difference is just it's enormous, and it's nice to experience it. Well, that wasn't pleasant, but most of it was nice to experience.
I mean, it's fantastic what you're doing, and we'll come on to the ones that you're doing now, and in fact, we'll come on to them now, because you've set yourself 20 challenges in 2025. Tell me about numbers 10 and 17.
10 and 17. I'm hoping I've got them in the right order. One of them was to appear on radio. So
10.
So thank you very much for that tick, Dave.
No
it's very
problem.
much appreciated. And number 17 was to have a song that I recorded a couple of years ago, but played on the radio. A song that and you know, as a caveat beforehand, I'm not a singer, but. You know, like a lot of people, you like to think that maybe you can hold a note, but the pitch correction software that is used nowadays is an absolute godsend. But I recorded a song basically in memory of my parents. It was something that I wanted to do and thoroughly enjoyed doing. It was done with, I think, as I mentioned to you off air, with Carl Pemberton. From Journey South, and his incredibly talented son Luke, who plays the piano, and so 2 out of the 3 people involved were musical. The third one had a go. The third one, just some old fellow who thought he could hold a tune, and as hopefully you might be able to demonstrate, can't.
We will discuss afterwards. What's it called?
It's called Million Miles. It's a ballad that was written by an American band, a little-known American band called Sugar Stems, and it was lovely because the lead singer was called Betsy Hebler, gave me permission to use the song, record the song, and actually sent an email afterwards to saying when she heard it, it made her cry, and she actually was
in a good way.
She was referring to the quality of the piano playing, and not to the lack of quality of the singing voice.
Oh, stop it! Here's Richard Kirby. This is Million Miles.
When I walk into the flame, when I march into the fire, will my ashes blow away? Will the wind take them up higher? Just like a kite string, you better hold on tight before you know I'm a million miles away. When we walk into the store, where we dance into the hurricane, will we keep march into the unknown. Will the beating of my heart be the only sound that you know to follow it back to me? Oh, you can follow it home, follow it out to sea, all on your own, a million miles away. 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 A million miles away.
And there we go, Richard Kirby. One take Charlie, says here.
Yeah,
1 million miles.
That was supposed to be the name of the band. It didn't take one take, it took considerably more.
Oh dear. Well, there you go. 2 ticked off. He's on the radio.
Thank you very
Played
much.
his song. Absolute pleasure. Tell us some more of the ones that you've got lined up then, Richard, for 2025. Which ones are you looking forward to? Which ones are you dreading?
I mean, I haven't sort of stretched myself on with the physical challenges because, yeah.
You're not getting any younger.
I'm certainly not getting any younger. But there's a couple more musical ones in there. As we discussed off air, you've had Chris Curtis on, a friend of mine. From Jake Fest. And Chris's daughter Megan is a very talented young musician, and she's going to help me out with a couple of the musical ones, singing a duet, and we're going to hopefully find a way of compiling a band and recording something. And obviously apologies in advance for the vocals, but everything else will be really good. A couple of sporting ones. I do want to do I played a lot of cricket in my youth with only moderate success, but I do want to maybe try and bowl at another cricketer, but hopefully I'm looking forward to maybe meeting up with the Durham ladies, one or two of the cricketers up there, and seeing how far they can hit me. It's not, as I say, it's probably not as wide ranging as the original 100, but there's enough in there. I think there's an archery task, trying to hit a bullseye. I'm doing another darts marathon actually next month, so our local pub is going to open its doors for me, and I'm going to throw darts for 12 hours and see if I can hit a few reasonable scores along the way. And I'm going to try and raise a little bit of money for the Motor Neurone Disease Association as well. So there's a few bits and pieces, but the intention is, again, just to continue to show that it's okay to ask for help if you're struggling. That link with mental health, to show that it's fine to talk, and hopefully, there might be one or two groups or organisations out there that would like me to come along and chat to them face to face, which is the main reason why I'm doing the challenge, is just to sort of show that I am around, and if anybody does want to just sort of share stories or listen to lived experience, I'm more than happy to sort of take the car and drive out and spend an hour or two just showing that it's not, there is stigma potentially, but it's not that bad to share, and difficult subjects do need to be talked about as openly as possible. I might not be the greatest speaker in the world, but I'm willing to go out there and be open and honest. And if that resonates or allows anybody to, give them the courage or the confidence to open up themselves, then that would be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, How do we keep in touch with your exploits?
I have I don't have a Facebook page or anything in particular, but I will be posting on my personal Facebook profile. But I'll keep sending stuff over to Zetland, Dave, if that's okay. And
you realise I'm going to hold you to account by the end of the year.
No problem at all.
We're going to drag you back in, kicking and screaming, saying, why didn't you bowl to that England international?
That's fine, as long as you open the door for me this time, Dave. That'll be absolutely fine. But yeah, it's you can hold me to account. I'll give it a good go. And as I say, along the way, I think that the important thing for me is again just to highlight the need for openness, the need to talk, and if it happens, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I mean, I'm not setting myself up as an expert or anything like that. I just have lived experience, and I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I feel like I'm strong enough to talk about it.
Which is fantastic, and I think more needs to be done in that field. And it's what we try to do on here. And thank you so much, Richard. I'm glad we've ticked 2 of your 30 off.
I really appreciate you.
Have you done any others, by the way?
The only one I've done, I set myself a couple of quiz challenges, and one of them was to name the 88 constellations in 5 minutes, which I managed to do. So realistically, it starts now, and so thank you for the start and for taking a couple off and for inviting me, and I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, Richard. All the best with you for 2025.